Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. Do you enjoy feeding wild birds? Well, if you do, you're not alone. 60 million Americans enjoy feeding birds through the winter time. Well, just like you and me, birds have a preference for food. They don't enjoy just everything that you might put out in their feeder. There are certain seeds that attract certain birds. So let's take a look at a few of those. Now, sunflower seed is probably the first thing that comes to mind when you think of feeding birds. This is black oil sunflower seed, and right here I have some striped sunflower seed. And as you can see, the black oil sunflower seed is quite a bit smaller, but the difference is that birds actually prefer the black oil sunflower seed. It has a higher kernel percentage in that for the size of seed it is, they get more kernel out of it. It's easier to crack open. It has a thinner shell than the striped. So if you're purchasing sunflower seed, get the black oil type instead of the striped. You'll probably get more for your money, and the birds will enjoy it more too. It's especially attractive to cardinals. Now here I have hulled sunflower seed. The hull has been removed and the seed has been cracked. And this is very helpful to some of the smaller birds through the winter time. They don't have to expend their energy taking the hull off. You can just feed them directly. And if your bird feeder is on a patio and you don't want to be sweeping up hulls from sunflower seeds, you could feed this type and you wouldn't have as much of a mess. Now, if you want to attract goldfinches, Nigra is what you want to feed. Some people think of it as thistle seed, but it's actually Nigra seed. It's grown in India and Bangladesh, and that tells us that it has to travel a long way before it gets to this country, and it's very expensive. If you're going to buy this kind of seed, you want to make sure that it's fresh. Now, here's a quick little test you can use to make sure that it has not dried out in transit. Just take a few seeds on a piece of paper and then take your knife and press them onto the paper. What you should end up with is a readily visible mark of oil. That tells you there's still plenty of oil in the seed, and the seed will be good for the birds. Now, Nigra, of course, needs to go into a special feeder so it won't be wasted. Now, when you go to the grocery store, a lot of times you might see big packets of wild bird food, usually is how it's worded, and it's a mix like this. And really, you're not getting as much for your money as you might think you are. It does have black oil sunflower seed in it, and that's very good, attractive to the birds. And it has striped sunflower seed. They'll eat that. It has some millet in it, which is fine. But then you have milo or sorghum mixed in. And really, only wild game birds eat that. The birds that you want to attract to your home, such as chickadees and cardinals, won't even touch it. In fact, they'll push it out of your feeder in preference for other foods. Now, one good food is safflower. And the good thing about it is, yes, it attracts cardinals and some of the other birds, although they prefer black oil sunflower seed. The big benefit, though, is that squirrels are not attracted to safflower. So if you have trouble with squirrels coming to your feeder, you might want to use safflower as a feed instead. Over here I have white proso millet. Millet is very attractive to mourning doves. So if you like to hear the call of mourning doves, you might scatter millet out on the ground or put it in a feeder. However, other birds don't really care for it. In fact, some birds will also swoop this out of the feeder or sweep it out in order to get to other more preferred foods, such as sunflower seed. It also attracts sparrows, and so if you don't want a lot of sparrows around, you might not want to put millet about. Now, if you're storing sunflower seed or any seed for birds in general, make sure that you store it in a cool, dry place. This is some black oil sunflower that was held over through the summer in a very warm, humid place. And it looks like it may have a little bit of dust on the surface, but that is actually a mold that is grown on the surface of the seed. And birds will not prefer that. They'll pass by that in order to find some fresher food. Also, the seed can dry out through the summertime and not have as much food value in it for the birds. So only buy what you need for this year, and then buy fresh seed next fall for the following winter. Now, some other things you can put out to feed birds are apple cores. You could hang these on the feeder, hang them in the tree, or scatter raisins out. Certain birds also prefer to eat fruit. You could also take pine cones and stuff them with suet. Now, suet is beef fat, and you can usually get that from a butcher after they've trimmed some of the larger cuts. And in Oklahoma, we have warm enough winters that suet could go rancid if it's set out in the sun on a warm day. So it's a good idea to render it first, or only put it out for a short while. If you leave it out for a long time on a warm sunny day in February, it could have problems. Now, some people will stuff a pine cone with suet. They might also mix suet into a cake with bird seed, and birds like that. Another thing that you can do with pine cones is stuff them with peanut butter. Certain birds, such as nuthatches, love to get in and eat peanut butter out of cones. So that's another possibility.